So, can you give me, as someone who doesn't understand the trades or someone who never did your line of work,
Mhm.
what is it that you do as a glass worker? Or what is it that you did?
I worked with flat glass a lot of times. So what we were doing was we were cutting glass and stuff like that. Myself personally, I never installed. There was installers out there that would actually do installations. So there's an apprenticeship just like every other trade as well. And yeah, you go through your apprenticeship and you get your ticket. I actually moved through the union ranks quite quickly, so I actually do not even hold a ticket because I moved through so fast.
Shit.
So yeah,
You climbed the ranks very quickly as a glass worker. What was the driving force or the reasoning behind you wanting to become a business rep? Because that was your next step after that, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. So what pushed you to go from, because you speed ran
yeah,
your apprenticeship and you
yeah.
got your journeyman very quickly, which is there's nothing wrong with that. But 5 years in the trade and you're like, I'm going to be a business rep. Like, what was at that time the reason?
I When I first started, I wanted to help a lot of the members that I worked with. And
Hmm.
I'm talking about within the first 6 months. They were coming to me at I read the collective agreement, I read the bylaws, I read the constitution, so I knew sort of how everything operated. And the guys were coming to me asking me questions. Next thing I know, they said, "Well, we want you to be the job steward." Well, geez, I just got here, and you
Hmm.
want me to be the job steward? But it's because they had an open relationship with me. They could talk with to me and all of that. That they felt comfortable in me holding that position. Well, as soon as I became the job steward, next thing I know, the manager there wanted me to be on the negotiating committee and also sit on the health and welfare plan as well. So I started getting an interest in that, and I like helping the members. And I think that's what really started all of it is I wanted to help them in order to, it came to even opening up bank accounts and working with them on small stuff, working on health and welfare claims with them in order to get it through. Some guys weren't comfortable in talking to the employer. I'd be doing that. If they had issues at home, I'd try and help them as best I could.
So it just came very natural
It
for
just
you to
came
be
very
like a
natural.
mediator.
Yeah.
Just like the trade in itself, the role just kind of fell in your lap, being because you went from 5 years in the trade, then you kind of went to a steward position, and
No, I
then
was in a steward position after 1 year.
really,
Yeah.
oh, I
Yeah.
thought that you had to be in like a journeyman
They
status.
had to actually go back to the local union in order to get permission for me to be the steward. And the business manager granted it and went back to a union meeting in order for me to actually be a steward.
Oh shit. Okay, so that's how that kind of happened, and then
And I was always one that was attending union meetings as well.
okay, so you were very involved
I was
with the
very
union.
active right from the get go.
So then,
And I was volunteering for the kids' Christmas parties, any events that were happening. I was always there and always trying to help as much as I could.
so regarding the union, you were you eventually came into the position of a business rep, right? And then how did you make the transition or the jump from that to an executive director overseeing not just like your union, but a number of unions? And that was in Saskatchewan
Yeah.
before you came out to Alberta, right? So how did that happen?
I think one of the reasons I became an agent as quick as I did is there was the opportunity in Saskatchewan to help and represent in Saskatchewan. And the local was a Manitoba, Saskatchewan local. Because it was Manitoba, Saskatchewan, a lot of the members were in Manitoba. So we did have members in Saskatchewan, but they needed a rep to go and work in Saskatchewan. And because I was still very young at the time, didn't have a family, wasn't married, I said, you know what? I'll go do it. You know, I'll go out to Saskatchewan if you want me to go out to Saskatchewan. And sure enough, a lot of people said it's not going to work. He's not going to go from one province to the next province and
And run it.
yeah, run it and be successful. He's going to get homesick. He's going to want to come home. But just like sort of working on the tools in Fort McMurray. You go and you could do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going home, at beginning once every couple of weeks. Then it became once every couple of months. Then it became once every couple of years.
And you just, at that time, I'm guessing, moved from Manitoba to
Yeah,
Saskatchewan.
I totally right from the get go moved from Manitoba to Saskatchewan,
Mm-hmm.
but I would go back and visit family and friends all the time. Well, not all the time, but
Periodically.
periodically. And then it just became less and less as I started getting more involved with my work and also making new friends and relationships in Saskatchewan. And in turn, making those relationships in Saskatchewan in order to try and organize and work for the members. I was working with a lot of the other unions to see how they were doing things and see which success they were having out there. And by working with those unions and having good relationships with a lot of the business managers in Saskatchewan, it just sort of naturally there was an opening as the executive director, and a number of the managers at that time said, you know what, why don't you do it? And they asked me to actually take on that role. And I'm never one to turn down a challenge. So I took on the role in Saskatchewan. And after 12 years of doing that, I feel like, we made gains. Not as much as I obviously would like, but we made gains. The work situation was getting better. We had a lot more dialogue, communication with all the affiliates. Everything was moving in the right direction. And then the opportunity came up that they asked me here, would I like to take on the Alberta building trades? So I
Packed your stuff up and
again
moved to
packed my
Alberta.
stuff up and moved to Alberta. And this time was family in tow. But I love Alberta. I do not regret moving here one bit. Is it a challenge? Yes, it's a challenge. It's politically can be sometimes difficult to maneuver, but we have good relationships within both political parties here in the province. Um, we're making some gains. We just need to make more. We need to grow our membership here. That's the one thing I've said from the very beginning. It's market share. What we need here is more market share. We have 60,000 members, but the thing is, in order for members to have more strength in Alberta and get more gains, we need to have more market share. A gentleman once said to me, a very smart gentleman said, the government beat us up on one point, and he says to me, Terry, do you think the government would have done that to you if you had 100% market share out there? If you had 80% market share out there, would the government have attacked you the way that they did? And now when I say attack me, I mean, he's mean the membership.
Mm-hmm.
And no, they never would have. They never would have done that. Could we get better deals out there for the members in regards to wage packages, hours of work? Yes, if we have more market share. That's been my key focus in the last 8 years is how can we gain market share out there? What can we do better in order to get there? Are we getting there fat? No, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I don't think it's a never-ending battle. This is union versus non-union versus CLAC versus CMA. It goes on and on how other competitors are coming in there trying to water it down, and it's not even just the competitors, it's the non-union as well. And so there's this constant competition here, and at the end of the day, I know what a lot of members, workers, they're going to go wherever the work is, and that's the reality. We've got to find ways that we can work with the contractors, work with the members in order to get more of that market share. So we have to be competitive. So we always have to sharpen our pencils in order to get that work out there for the members. Because if we get that market share, we can do more things.
Before we dive into like more market share stuff and so on, when you were doing glasswork, is there something that you actually miss about doing the trade in itself? Like what?
Oh,
Like when you
I'm
think
going to tell you
back on,
something.
yeah.
What I miss is actually going to work and getting something accomplished right then, right there, and moving on to the next thing. Here,
Oh,
working for the building trades, working as a union rep, it's very hard to sometimes when you're working directly with members, you can actually fix their problem, move on to the next member's problem, and so on and so forth. But at the building trades, a lot of it is these issues that are so overarching that you're dealing with government and you're dealing with contractors, and some things may take years to accomplish if you ever accomplish it. And and it's something I go to sleep thinking about and I wake up thinking about. And it's never ending. Compared to when you're on the tools, when 4:30 comes around,
You're
or
done for the
you're done
day.
for the day. You go home. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining at all. But I'll have members calling me at 7 o'clock at night. I have managers calling me at 9 o'clock, and I'm okay with that. Don't get me wrong.
The
I
phone never
love,
stops.
I love my job, but the phone never stops. The emails never stop, and it's this constant grind. But when you're working on the tools, you go in, you punch, you
You get
punch
your
in,
break. You're
and get your
done.
break, you're done, and you can sort of relax and not be thinking about it. Even when you take a week off on holidays, you're on holidays. Me, it's that first 3 days I can't unwind. I'm still thinking about, is this being done? What's happening with this? And it's all good. And I'm not
You're
complaining.
married to your job, is what you're
Yeah.
saying.